Does anybody else think that this shirt makes me look like a dude? I think I look like a bro. Is this a men's shirt? So today I'm going to be talking about all of my favorite makeup brushes. These are all the brushes that I can't seem to do my makeup without. Most of them are drugstore or affordable brushes, but a couple of them are higher end. And the higher end ones, yeah, all of the higher end ones are Bare Minerals. And that's because my mom only buys Bare Minerals and she passes stuff down to me. But they are mostly drugstore and affordable brushes. So I'm just gonna go ahead and get started in the order that I would use them on my face. And let's just get the first one out of the way because this is extremely obvious. I do not use anything else to put on my foundation. I feel like once you use a sponge, you can never go back to a brush. Is that just me? The second I used a sponge for the first time, I never used a brush to put on my foundation again. These are the Real Techniques Miracle Complexion sponges. In my opinion, these are comparable to the Beauty Blender. They're not as good, but they're much, much cheaper. This 2-pack is 11 bucks and the Beauty Blender by itself is 20. So they're not as good, but for the price difference, I think it's worth it to buy these instead. All right, so next up, this is the Real Techniques again. This is their buffing brush. I don't like to use brushes to put on my foundation like I had just mentioned. If you do like brushes to put on your foundation, I definitely recommend this Real Techniques one. It's inexpensive, it's unbelievably soft. Usually before I go in with foundation, I like to spot conceal because I have severe cystic acne. So I go in with a spot concealer and I use this to buff it in mostly all over my cheeks before I go in with my foundation. And it just buffs it in flawlessly. All right, next is my all over powder brush. This one is by Coastal Scents. And it came in a little brush kit with 4 other brushes. There's not too much to say about this. It is synthetic and it's so soft. Usually synthetic hair brushes are a lot softer than natural hair brushes, and I tend to prefer the synthetic ones. But it's just a nice big old fluffy powder brush, and I use this to set my whole face. Sometimes I'll use it after I bake underneath my contour. I'll use it to brush away that bake and kind of soften that line that I just made a little bit using this brush. And it's Coastal Scents, so it's very affordable. And the other 4 brushes in that kit are awesome as well. I don't use those every day, but those are great brushes and I use those as well. My dog only demands attention from me when I'm busy. Does anybody else have that problem? So next is this one right here, and this is the Elle Small Tapered Brush. It doesn't have the name on the actual brush, which is dumb. But this is the Elle Small Tapered Brush, and I like to use this to bake underneath my eyes and to brush away that bake when I'm all done with it. This brush I feel like is so multi-purpose as well. You could use this to contour your nose, bronze out the forehead. If you have maybe smaller cheeks, you could totally use this for blush as well. Too small for blush for me personally, but I feel like this brush, there's just so many different ways to use this brush. And it's Elle, so it's $3. And it's also a synthetic hair, and it's got a really nice tapered shape to it. And I can't seem to do my makeup without this brush. This brush is the one that gets the dirtiest the fastest because I use it for baking. So I dunk it in my loose powder and bake underneath my eyes, and it gets really dirty really quickly. Next is probably my most affordable face brush, and it is this one. This is my contour brush. It says absolutely nothing on the handle, but I purchased this on Amazon, and I believe it was $2.17. It was between $2 and $3. It's got nice short bristles. I believe that this one is also synthetic. It feels way too soft for it to be natural hair. So I don't know what the brand is or anything like that, but if you just go on Amazon and type in contour brush, it's the one that was $2.17. I use this today to contour. I like this because you can use it to apply the contour, and then I also like to use it to buff out my contour. If you want a really diffused contour, the more stiff the bristles are, the more dense your brush is, the more diffused that blend is gonna be. Does that make sense? So if you use a brush like this to buff out your contour, it's gonna be a very strong contour. Like, okay, am I making sense? Let's say I use this, I apply my contour, and then say I go in with this to blend it out, it's gonna blend it out less. So it's gonna be still a pretty stiff, strong contour. Whereas if I went in with this, applied my contour, and then also used this to blend it out, which is what I did today, you're gonna get a nice soft contour because the bristles are so dense. compared to this one. Does that make sense? So next is one of my more expensive brushes, unfortunately, and it is this one. This is the Bare Minerals Flawless Face Brush, and actually now that I think about it, I don't know if this one is available anymore. So this is also the Bare Minerals Flawless Face Brush. These are the same brush. So these two brushes are unbelievably similar. As you can tell, they look pretty much identical. However, this one is synthetic and this one is a natural hair brush. This one is permanent. You can buy this one right now. However, I prefer the synthetic haired one. That seems to be a trend when it comes to my brush preferences. I really like synthetic brushes better. They're softer, and in my experience, I believe that they tend to shed less. I feel like when I get shedding from a brush, it's usually from a natural hair brush. Anyway, I prefer the synthetic one. So if you can get a brush that's shaped similarly and it's synthetic, I will go for that one over this one. Plus this one is too expensive and you don't need a brush like this. I'm just talking about the shape. This to me is perfect for blush. I've mentioned this before, but I don't like to apply blush right to the apples of my cheeks. You know, I don't do the whole like smile thing and then on the apples of my cheeks because I feel like I sort of look like a clown. I think that my cheeks and my face is too round for that. So what I tend to do is I put it above my contour in the same sort of shape as my contour. I do that when I apply blush instead of smile like most people. So if you're like that, this is a really great brush for blush. I like to use sort of this side here for the blush. You could even use this for bronzing if you wanted to, you know, right on the top, but I like to angle it a little bit more and use the side for blush, and it just applies it so nicely. I just feel like it's the perfect shape for my face, personally. So if you have a similarly shaped face. So when it comes to highlight, I have two brushes that I find myself reaching for most of the time. Kaiser, can you please lay down, honey? One is a little bit more recent and one I've been using for a while, but I prefer them in conjunction with each other. I've been trying to get this dog to eat all day, and now is when he decides to do it. So these are the two brushes that I love to use for highlighting. This one is more expensive. It's by Bare Minerals and it's called the Flawless Fan. And this one is by Real Techniques. You can find it at the drugstore, and it is their setting brush. So the way that I like to use these is I'll go in initially with the setting brush to highlight the tips of my cheekbones. To highlight the tops of my cheekbones, and then I will go in with just a little bit more product with the fan brush and use it to really blend it out. That's what I did today. I'm wearing Becca Champagne, no. Yes, I'm actually wearing Becca Pearl, and then just a little bit of Champagne Pop on top. I'm gonna wait for my dog to be done eating. I'm not gonna tell him not to eat because I've been trying to get him to eat all day. Okay, so the reason why I like to use these two brushes in conjunction with each other is because I find that when I apply highlight, especially the Becca highlights or the Makeup Revolution Vivid Baked highlighters with just a natural hair fan brush, it tends to look a little bit patchy applied to the face, especially if I do it after I set my face with setting spray. You guys know that little trick. If you want your highlight to be more intense or last longer throughout the day, apply it on top of your setting spray when it's still just a little bit wet. So all of those things mixed together makes your highlight a little bit patchy, and I've noticed it especially with those two highlights in particular. So I like to go in with my setting brush first. This one is synthetic, and it's got a nice tapered sort of paddle style. So I like to go in with this one first with no setting spray, and then go in with this brush, blend it out a little bit, setting spray, and then go back in with my fan brush one more time. I know it seems extremely high maintenance, but it's what I do to get this highlight. So that is actually it for the face brushes. Yes, every once in a while I use different brushes besides these, but these are the ones that I find myself reaching for the most. All right, so my first eye brush that I want to talk about is this one by Wet n Wild. I know it's dirty, I'm sorry. It's the Wet n Wild Crease brush. Again, it doesn't say it on the actual handle of the brush, but it says it in the little sleeve that you buy this in at the store. I don't know how much this is. I think it was $2, maybe $3, and it is so good. It's a perfect shape. It looks, to me, it looks similar to the Sigma E40 that everybody loves. I've never tried that brush before, but it looks extremely similar to that one. It's synthetic hair. It's got this pretty white to pink ombre detailing there on the actual bristles. It's got this little crevice for your finger to rest in while you're actually applying product, and I literally use it every day. Not every day, but every day that I do my makeup, I am constantly reaching for this brush. The next brush is along similar lines, and it is the Avon Crease brush. This one compared to the Wet n Wild brush, basically it's a little bit thinner and it's much more tapered than the Wet n Wild one is. The Wet n Wild one has a nice rounded tapered point, and the Avon one is very tapered and it comes to a much thinner point up at the top. It's Avon, so it is pretty inexpensive, and Avon has sales all the time. They have maybe buy one get one, stuff like that. And I love to use this in conjunction with the Wet n Wild one. The Wet n Wild one is great for my transition shade, and I like to use the Avon one for an actual crease shade to get a little bit deeper into my crease and a little bit more defined. This one is also a synthetic brush. Another one from the Wet n Wild line, and it is this one. And this one I actually have no idea what it's called. Maybe, I think is it the large eyeshadow brush? Again, it's from this Wet n Wild line, so it's super inexpensive. It's basically just a large flat shader brush, and my favorite way to use this is to set my primer. Once I'm done priming my eyelids, I'll take a white eyeshadow or just a translucent powder, and I'll use this to set my whole eye from my lash line all the way up to my brow bone. It's my favorite way to use this. This is also synthetic, and it's very affordable as well. Another way that I like to use this brush is if I'm doing a super simple one eyeshadow look, I'll use this to apply the product all over my lid and then just slowly sort of buff it up into my crease so I still get a nice diffused gradient effect, but I'm not going in with, you know, 4 different crease colors and then 2 different brushes for my lid. This is a nice one-stop shop. But if I don't use this for anything else, I use it to set my eye primer. Nothing too crazy or anything, but I use this every single time I do my makeup. Next is also very similar. This is the Elle Professional Eyeshadow Brush. This is the e.l.f. $1 shader brush that I'm sure you see all over YouTube. It's such a simple brush that you pretty much can't go wrong with. It doesn't shed, it's only $1. I mean, you can't go wrong with a shader brush. This is what I used today to pack my lid color all over my eyelid, and I believe that it's natural hair. But the selling point for me was the fact that it's $1. I have 2 of these, and I love them. You can't go wrong. This is one brush that everybody should own. And this one compared to the Wet n Wild one, this one is a little bit shorter and a little bit stiffer. This one has a little bit more give to it, and this one's just a little bit more dense because the bristles are shorter. Another way that I like to use this one is to buff a shadow out on the lower lash line. I used to use like a really sharp square definer brush, which I like, but it was a little bit too rough on my lower lash line. Lower lash lines and waterlines are pretty sensitive, so you want to use nice soft brushes on them, and this one has a little bit more give than that definer brush. This one, I used to use this one, which is also by e.l.f., and it's called the Professional Eyeliner Brush. It's a great brush just for the lower lash line. It's a little bit stiff and a little bit scratchy, so I prefer to use this one. Again, it's similar. This one just has more give to it, and it's a little bit more comfortable to use on the lower lash line. Almost done, just 3 more brushes. This next one, I don't know if I want to talk about this because I don't know where you can buy this. I got this at a Forever 21 years ago. This was probably 6 or 7 years ago that I purchased this brush. This brush came in a set with this brush, which if you recall, back in the Dizzle, right when I first started my YouTube channel, everyone on YouTube was using fan brushes to highlight, and I didn't have a fan brush at the time, so I took bobby pins and I spread these bristles out so that I could use it as a fan brush, homemade fan brush, you know? Balling on a budget. You feel me? Anyway, that is so beside the point. This brush came in the same little set. You can see they both have the same pretty floral pattern on the handle. It's basically another shader brush, but it's got a cool taper pattern to it. It comes to a pretty sharp point at the top, but I like to use this brush for inner corner and brow bone highlighting. I think that this just fits in my inner corner so perfectly. It's synthetic, it's small. I know that it's probably gonna be impossible for anybody to find this, if anybody wants this, but there are a lot of similar brushes on the market that may possibly be better quality than this dinky little Forever 21, but I use it. This is a video about the brushes that I reach for every single time I do my makeup, and this is one of them, okay? I'm sorry. All right, so to finish up, I'm gonna talk about the brushes that I use to do my brows. And I like to use this one. This one is also by Coastal Scents. It's just an angled eyeliner brush. Oh, it says BR-C-S18. Girl. It's an angled eyeliner brush, okay? You can use this to do your winged eyeliner. I like to use it for my eyebrows. I like to fill in my brows with powder. I just dip it into my powder, fill in my eyebrows, and good to go. Coastal Scents is very inexpensive. It's got relatively long bristles on it and it's pretty dense. I don't love it for eyeliner. It's a little bit too wide this way for eyeliner for me, but I do have pretty big eyebrows, so it works well to get in the front of my brows and down toward the tail. It works really well that way as well. I need a new eyebrow brush, not because this one is bad, because I do use this and I do like this, but I want one with a spoolie on the end of it. Oh my gosh, should I just like tape this on here? Now that right there is balling on a budget. I want a brush that's like this, that has the spoolie on the end of it, because I use this disposable spoolie to use on my brows. That's the next brush that I was gonna talk about. But I want one that it comes with an angled brush. When I do research about these brushes, everyone raves about the Anastasia one, which I'm sure is great. I'm not about buying a $23 brush for my brows. So that completes this video, you guys. These are all the brushes that I can't seem to do my makeup without. I really hope that you guys enjoyed it. If you did, please give it a thumbs up and make sure that you're subscribed to my channel so you don't miss any future videos of mine. And I will see you next time. Kaiser, do you mind? Kai, you have food in your bowl. Stop trying to eat stuff off the floor. Daddy's not gonna be happy when I tell him that you took his dress sock out of the hamper. Yeah. He's not gonna be happy. I can't with your face. Please stop being so adorable when I'm trying to scold you. Whereas, oh my gosh, that scared me so bad. Especially the Becca tools and things like that. A translucent. This is also synthetic. This one is also synthetic. And this one is also, girl.